If you want to be successful, you have to heal.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to grow your business, you have to heal.
Yep.
If you want to be a high performer, you have to heal. Because unless you heal those old stories that I'm not good enough, that I need external validation, that I have a fear of being seen or fear of being successful, it's always going to cap you.
Always. Hello, my love. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast here on YouTube. I am going to ask you to take just a moment before enjoying this episode and go and hit the subscribe button. It not only helps the show, but it helps the channel. And I only want to continue to bring you incredible content and beautiful video content here on the YouTube. So just take a moment before enjoying the episode and hit subscribe. Thank you. My loves, you are in for such a treat. So Francesca Sipma, I've always been drawn to breathwork, but I feel like I just never really found my teacher or my space to really practice. And if anything, I found breathwork to be really, really intimidating. I thought it was going to blast me out of my body. And as a Capricorn rising, I don't like to lose control. So I really avoided it until a happenstance at a business retreat run by my babe, Lindsay Schwartz. Francesca came and led one of the most magnificent sessions that I've ever experienced. And it really, really broke me open. I had the privilege of getting to work with her over 5 sessions and really honing in. I went to her because literally I was in scarcity and a lot of fear, thinking that my business was going to treat that to make me feel safe immediately. She saw right through it, spoke so directly to my spirit, and really lovingly and respectfully humbled me to do the deeper work of healing my grief and looking at the loss that I was experiencing last year. And all of you, if you've been with me for a while, you know the whole story. This conversation was just so deep and expansive. She's not only deeply spiritual and just such a centered, powerful woman, but she is a badass entrepreneur who is really bringing together intuition and then building an impact-driven business. So we're going to talk all about it. I know you babes are going to love this episode, and thank you as always for tuning in. Francesca, I'm so honored that you're here, babe. Thank you so much for making the trip. I want to share something. So a couple of years ago, I met you through Lindsay Schwartz, and you came and led breathwork at the Expanders Retreat. And I remember before we started the session, you were going around the room to each woman. I think there was 50 of us in the room, and I was last or second to last. And you were essentially asking us just to get really raw and authentic. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something around all of the ways that I felt just a fake and an imposter and really in my scarcity. Ironically, I was also still married then, and I was going through a lot, and I wasn't really ready to talk about what I was experiencing. And I remember you gave me this guidance to go into that session and to meet my ancestors and meet them back on the boat that they were on from Ukraine to the States. And I had one of the most profound experiences of my life. I felt my ancestors holding me and moving with me and helping me heal. And I think I mentioned to you before we started recording, I was never super, super drawn to breathwork. I've always had a respect for it. And obviously, meeting you, I just felt oh, this is someone I feel I can learn from. And this is someone that I feel I admire. Before we get to you, I got to say one thing that just trips me out. I reached out to you this last year after I had that really powerful experience with you. I've been subscribed to your app ever since. And I wrote you on Instagram because I got this psychic hit that was you need to see if Francesca will work with you one-to-one. So I reached out to you and you gave me the lowdown and we did a session together. And I said, I need to make more money in my business. I told you my revenue goal. And you look me dead in the face and you go, you don't need to do that right now. You need to handle your grief. And I was like speechless. And that first session, you and I, instead of me bypassing what I was really experiencing, the loss and grief around my dad, the loss and grief around my ex-husband and losing my relationship, you just through that session sent me straight in to the grief. And I was having this like psychedelic experience. A couple nights earlier, I had been talking to my dad, who's, crossed over. And I said, Dad, you need to help me heal. I am struggling so much with my relationship to men. I don't know if I'm ever going to get married again. I don't know how I'm ever going to have a relationship again. I'm like, I really need your help. And at the end of the session I did with you, my dad met me. You told me to go to a natural place. And all of a sudden I was in this liminal space with a waterfall, and my dad was in his soul body, and he gathered every single man who's ever hurt me in my entire life and throughout every lifetime. And they surrounded me in this pool and held me while I wept. And I was beside myself. And then when I came to and told you, you were like, whoa. And I just feel like I had to have you on the show because I've just had not only such profound healing experiences with you, but you're also just so grounded and you're so fucking baddie. And I just like respect you so much. And you, I'm sure in a lot of ways that you don't even know, like you've had such a really profound effect on me. And I know this is only our second time ever seeing each other in person, but I also had the privilege of working with you for a month, and we're going to talk about that. So welcome to Envy the Pod.
Thank you so much for that introduction, that context. And I'm receiving that. I think when you're in your presence, it's very strong and it's very powerful. And even in that first time I met you at Expanders Retreat, that came through very loud. And so when you were kind of sharing the struggles that you were going through at the time, I was like, this isn't yours. Like this feels generational. It doesn't even just feel like you're conditioning from childhood. It feels like something that you're carrying from somebody else. And so I think that's why we went a couple layers deeper. And then when we started working together, you were sharing with me the things that you'd been going through in your life. And there was a lot of transition. There was a lot of loss. And you were saying it in a way that was almost unemotional because you are so strong. Or I think you just shared with me, it has to do with
rising.
Capricorn.
Yes. Yep.
And the way you were saying it, and I know that you're strong, but I was like, that's too much for one person to go through without releasing the emotion and whatever happens in your subconscious. So we went deep.
We went deep. And I feel like you really sat with me as just such a powerful woman. And you really called me forward to feel my feelings. Whereas I think I used to have a really, really big, I'm sure it's a trauma response of just like, okay, this is a lot. So I'm just going to keep going. And I can't really process what's happening. What in your life, and thank God for breathwork, because I feel like it's helped me metabolize so many different things. And we're going to talk about all of that. How did you get here? Like what led you to breathwork?
Well, I'm having a full circle moment right now because we're in LA, and this is kind of where the breathwork journey started for me. But prior to that, I lived in New York for 10 years and I had a really successful career in advertising, and I was living my quote unquote dream life, but I just didn't feel fulfilled. And I felt like I was constantly chasing the next promotion and the status and the men and the parties and all the things. And then I finally got to this place where I'm like, this is what I've always wanted. I'm working client side at Bacardi. I'm traveling business class. I'm in Buenos Aires and Cape Town running multi-million-dollar shoots, and I just don't feel happy. And that kind of took me on an inward journey. I tried to live in San Francisco for a little bit. It was not the vibe. And so I found myself intuitively booking a one-way ticket to Bali, which is where I discovered breathwork at a retreat. And it's just fascinating to me. It just broke me wide open. And I was somebody who had read a lot of books and had been in therapy and intellectualized my feelings and thought I understood my patterns and my voids. But the breath just took me so much deeper to understanding kind of the childhood moments and conditioning that shaped my tough girl exterior and not wanting to feel my emotions, and how that had really hardened me and disconnected me from my authenticity. So I became really intrigued by breathwork. I went to India and Peru and Thailand, and I traveled for a year, going to different workshops and trying different healing modalities. And the breath was always the most I would say efficient, the most effective. And I felt like there's a way to optimize it, to bring it back to the West, to resonate with people that were similar to me and who loved business and who were in the material world. And we could kind of blend worlds with spirituality and peak performance. So I created my own modality, which is HypnoBreathwork, which is what you went through.
What has been your most like profound experience with HypnoBreathwork? Like whether maybe it's something you've led someone through or your own experience?
It consistently like shocks me what comes up in HypnoBreathwork, but for me, my most powerful session will always be the one that I had around my mother. So my mom's a Vietnamese refugee and I've always revered her. Like I always thought she was a wonderful person. She's extremely kind. When the facilitators wanted to go through a session with her, I said, we don't need to. I have daddy issues. My mom and I are good. But when I went through the breath, it took me to her escape from the country. It took me to her raising me, and I started to see her sacrifices that she made that I completely took for granted. And I just saw all these moments that really kind of broke me open because I was kind of spoiled. I just took her for granted. And to become aware of that and have the opportunity to course correct while she's still here was just such a freeing feeling. And I became kind of obsessed with allowing other people to have those types of breakthroughs and feeling like that was more of a mission. But even now, you know, it's like I've been doing breathwork every morning for 5 or 6 years, and my partner and I will get into an argument and I'll think it's definitely his fault, and then I'll breathe on it and I'm like, wow, I'm projecting my 17-year-old self who got cheated on onto my partner today. So it's just kind of amazing what your subconscious reveals on a daily basis.
I think that's one of the most absolutely prolific experiences I've had with your breathwork method. So I went to Paris and you and I did a really, really powerful breathwork before because, and I'll just be really transparent.
Yeah.
You were like, are we going to go there? And I was like, we probably will. But since my divorce and just some experiences I had last year, I just decided to become like celibate and abstinent for a lot of different reasons. And so going to Paris, I was a little nervous because it's a sexy city. And you and I, there's sort of two parts. This is kind of intense. I'm going to talk about two very different things here that we worked with. But the first part was really me going there and just being in my own peace, like being able, even if I did have an attraction with someone, to not need to like take it all the way to this place of like any kind of intimacy, whether it's emotional or physical. So the breath work that you took me through, it also really made me see that in any of my sensual experiences in my life or sexual experiences, all I was ever really aching for was like to be loved and to be seen. And through our breathwork session before I went to Paris, you guided me through that. And it was so massive for me to see that that was like the core of what I had always really wanted. And then you gave me a little piece of advice because I was going with my mom and you said, make sure to do the breath work. Was it on empathy? So I didn't. I never did it.
No.
And me and my mom actually had a really tough time together. And I was like, God bless it. I was like, Francesca told me to literally do the breath work. And it wasn't till I got home and we'd had this really rough time, kind of ruins the end of our trip together. And I sat down because exactly what you said, I was always like, it was her fault. It was her fault. Here's what she did. And then in the breathwork session towards the end, what do you always prompt? Like, I feel like there's always something.
What's your one next intuitive action step?
And it was literally showing me how I could take accountability for all the ways that I never consider her. And I make her just focus on my needs and what I want as her daughter. And also it showed me her as a little girl, and not just her, it showed me all the people that I have resentments for, and all of them as children. So I met every single person that I've had resentments with in my life, and I saw them as a child. In the freaking session. Yeah. Like, I don't need plant medicine really, because like this, it becomes so remarkable. How can you explain that? Like, how does our consciousness, it's almost like these remarkable pieces of wisdom are just right there for us.
Well, our subconscious mind is the storehouse, right? It holds all of our memories and our experiences, our behaviors, our values, our self-perceptions. And then as we get older, what happens is we become more conditioned by the worldview of our caregivers, by society. We almost become a little bit hardened, and we develop these coping mechanisms and protective strategies by what we see is socially acceptable to act in these certain ways and have these different traits, and we get sort of disconnected from ourselves. But when you go into the breath, it really shuts down the ego. It shuts down those protective forces. It allows you to go a little bit deeper, get to the root of your triggers, get to the root of why this protective mechanism really formed. And then you just get insight. A lot of people are more visual. They'll get childhood memories and see, you know, the reason why they have a disdain or have a judgment towards a certain characteristic. Other people will just feel emotions. They'll feel unprocessed shame or guilt or fear that's maybe living in their body. And when you start to exhale that out and you breathe out those old stories and those stagnant emotions that have been sort of stuck in your nervous system, it's just freeing. You expand your mind, you see somebody else's perspective, you develop more compassion, you get out of your head, you get into your heart. And it's a really liberating experience because we can't go through life wanting other people to respond in the way that makes us comfortable. You know, we can't control other people's. You just can't. You can't.
It's so powerful.
But when you do the breath work, you become more accountable. You become more aware of your own part. And we usually always have a part to play in every dynamic.
Yes.
And then even if you know that you need to set a boundary and maybe this isn't the right relationship in your life, you get perspective in terms of maybe why they behave that way, what happened in their inner child that caused them to develop, you know, certain coping strategies. And you can find forgiveness, you can find acceptance without needing them to change who they are. And that's really liberating.
I think that's just so powerful because I think something that has been problematic for me, and as I've continued to take accountability for my own healing and evolution, it's really seeing how I want people to do what I want them to do to make me feel a certain way. And I feel like there is such a remarkable awareness that comes through the healing that breathwork can provide. When you mentor or you work with high achievers, what do you feel like are some of the things that high achievers harbor that the breath can really help them move through?
I mean, at the root of high achievement is usually a feeling of not feeling enough.
Yes.
And when you're not enough, then you're constantly chasing the next thing. And even when you've accomplished what you believe, you know, is the goal that you've set out to accomplish, you're on to the next one. And there's never really this feeling of satisfaction. So it's insatiable, it's chronic, and it's almost negative because it doesn't matter what you've done. You just think that there's more to do. Yeah. And so for high achievers, it's really about going back to that story of when you only received love, when you were performing, when you were accomplishing things, really letting go of some of those narratives and just allowing yourself to be. Because what happens when we start getting older is we burn out. You know, we've been so attached to this identity and it's the only way that we felt worthy. And it starts to take a toll on our physical bodies. It starts to take a toll on our mental health. So helping them sort of rewrite that story from early childhood days and really feel into a sense of confidence just from their being, from their strength, from their growth, from their resilience versus the external things that they've done and seek validation from tends to be what helps them heal.
What gave you the inner prompt to know that you needed to create mastery your app most specifically? And tell us a little bit about your method and how it works.
Yeah, so HypnoBreathwork is an advanced style of breathwork where we combine 3 different modalities. So the breathwork is a circular connected breath pattern that allows you to clear out stuck emotions, anything that's been suppressed, stagnant energy from your nervous system, from your mind and your body. And then hypnosis is really just vocal prompts. It's vocal cues and positive suggestions so that we can start to rewire and rewrite those subconscious limiting beliefs. And then visioning is very similar to visualization, where you're sort of mentally rehearsing your goals and you're feeling the emotions ahead of the event. But sometimes in breathwork, visioning are just downloads that come through you. So it's not really images that you generate. It's kind of your soul's knowing that gives you a North Star. And then what's really important in our practice is what's your next action step? Because breathwork can be very cathartic and people can have releases, and that's cool. But when you actually execute from that place, from that energy as your highest self, and you have the conversations, you start the business, you have the pitch, you write the email, the energy hits different. And that's how people start to live in alignment and really start to execute on their dreams. So it's a very efficient process. It's only 22 minutes. And I recommend everybody do it in the mornings and do it daily and consistently, because we just have so much conditioning. We have so many old stories and fears and doubts. So we have to get into this state every single day and operate from there until we start to rewire it as an identity and as a habit. So that's the process. Mm-hmm. But the last prompt is really the most important sort of mantra to live by, which is intuitive action. Mm. So everything that I've ever created in the last 6 years has been intuitive, including mastery. So it comes through in my breath. I see UX, I see name, I see the different journeys, I see my coaches, and then I just work to bring that to life on a daily basis. And that's really the process that I want to teach people, is to really listen to your own body, to your own knowing, and then execute on it fiercely.
What I found so powerful about our work together is I came to you and I was like, I need to make more money so I feel safe. And I need to make this amount of money so I feel safe. And you were like, no, we need to handle your grief. And it was powerful how we went through this really. Another thing I'm obsessed with about you too, babe, is you are so honest. Mm-hmm. Like, you're Gemini. And I don't know if do you know that Gemini rules the lungs?
No,
so it's
I
really
didn't know
fascinating.
That's interesting.
Do you know you don't know your ascendant?
No.
We should know.
I know. I want to know.
You're kind of giving Leo rising, honestly, because you have this like gorgeous mane and all the things, and the regal. You're very regal. So tell me if I'm right at another time. That would be awesome to hear what your rising is. But one thing that I'll say is I love how you intuitively took me through these sessions. And at the very end, we did the one around my business. Mm-hmm. And what was so powerful, I think also because I was in a relationship where our visions were just so mismatched, and I had such fear of not being in the relationship that I was willing to kind of dim down, let things go, like, move to a place I didn't really want to move, and just sort of let my visions go and be like, okay, this is what I've chosen. And when you and I did our work and our sessions together, I really heard my soul again. I really heard my soul just remind me of like the beautiful, magnificent, yet soft enormity of what we're here to do.
Yeah.
And it was like giving myself permission to dream again. And what I find interesting about breath work and what I've done with you is like, I just feel like I remember every session. Like I remember really core important visions that I saw. So it's not like these were just flyby things that were just being drummed up from somewhere. It's like, for me, I think, as you mentioned, like my soul was communicating with me and like letting me really have an access point to things that I just hadn't let myself really acknowledge. If you're standing at the edge of a major life, money, or business transition, and you know the next chapter requires a different level of support, this may be your moment to work with me one-to-one. There are 2 ways to do that. The first is my year-long total life transformation mentorship, a deeply supported journey where we work on your money, your vitality, and your visibility so the growth you create is embodied and sustainable. The second is my signature one-to-one money and business mentoring, focused strategic support to help you stabilize, grow, and lead your finances and business with clarity and confidence. Both are for women who value refinement and are ready to build a life and business with intention, time spaciousness, and depth. If you feel the call to work with me one-to-one, the application is waiting for you in the show notes.
Well, I think that's the most important part for us women, and especially those of us who are entrepreneurs and who have businesses, is being able to hear our intuition.
Yes.
And when you have life events, and we all have life events, and some of them are going to take us out for longer than we want them to, but this is really a catalyst to process those moments, to release the emotions, to come back and anchor ourselves in who we are. And then we can hear that discernment. We can hear that inner knowing, that inner guidance, that voice inside of us. And when you learn to trust it, and not just trust it, but truly act on it, then you start to really carve your own path. You're forging your own way. You're doing things that haven't been done before. You're making connections that nobody else sees. You're having higher visions. You're walking your own path. You don't need anybody else's permission. You don't feel like you need to create for your parents' approval or for society to give you validation. You're truly creating from your soul. That's truly freedom. That's peace. That's joy. That's the meaning that we're all really seeking, because you can have success on paper, but unless it feels good in your body, you'll always be chasing something outside of you. But when we listen to our intuition and when we act from a place of alignment, world just opens up for us, and our businesses really start to flourish. With you, it was very easy for me. We had a great time.
And you just know I was like, tell me everything. And you were like, oh, I will.
You were so open to it. And I think the most important part that you were open to is, if you want to be successful, you have to heal. If you want to grow your business, you have to heal. Yep. If you want to be a high performer, you have to heal. Because unless you heal those old stories that I'm not good enough, that I need external validation, that I have a fear of being seen or fear of being successful, it's always going to cap you.
Always.
But your aura was so potent to me from the first time we met. Like, it was like, whoa, this girl is powerful. Like, you're so powerful. And when you came and you said, these are my revenue goals and abundance and business, I was like, that's too easy. That's too easy. Like, you have those things in spades. So we have to go a little bit deeper and clear out the gunk, clear out what's underneath that. Look at some of these life events that have shaped you over the last few years and beyond that. And then we can do the fun stuff.
I don't think I realized until you and I sat down in that first session how much I was holding and how much I was also hiding, because I think there were especially some things that I was moving with that I had shame around, and just like I hadn't really found my way around. And I believe so strongly in mentorship. Like, even sitting here right now with you and a year away from my divorce, I just moved back here to LA. It's just like, I'm so proud and amazed at the resilience of my spirit, but I haven't done it alone. It's like, I've literally followed intuitive guidance. Like, even I don't remember what I was doing. I think you did a post. I was obsessed with this. I actually want to talk about this for a moment. You did this post. I love your content, by the way. And I love that, like, you are yourself. You don't just talk about, obviously, if you talked about breathwork, it's been so impactful for me that I'd love to hear it from you. And you just like share very intuitively. So like, you've done really cool stuff about your past and like calling in your relationship. But there's this one post that you did that the reason I ended up working with you is you literally took us through all of the things that you invested in yourself, from like a $10 course to like 5-figure investments with like mentors or programs. And when I looked at that, I was just like, I'm really into like basketball. No one really knows that about me. I love like LeBron James, and I'm so fascinated by sports documentaries and stuff, because it's fascinating to see like I think there's something that goes around about him, about all the investment he does in himself to be playing basketball at like 39 or however old he is. So when I saw that in your post, I was like, wow. I was like, this is a woman who trusts herself. Like, and it really woke something up in me of like, if she trusts herself this much to invest in herself in these things, and I would imagine some of them were a slam dunk and maybe some of them you learned lessons through. I'd love to hear about that. But that really moved me to like trust. And I already had like a draw to you from when I met you. But when I saw that, it was like something just woke up in me that was like, she trusts herself. You can trust her. And I think also you can trust her with this place that like you have shame and like you don't feel totally integrated around. And that was really what pulled me to do this with you. And I really feel, even just today, I feel so different. Like, I'm in a completely different place. And I really credit that, those 5 sessions that I had with you of just really helping me clear out, like you said, like some energetic, emotional gunk that like I just didn't really know was there. And I was very emotional. Like, I don't know if you remember our first session. I was fucking mess. And then I noticed towards the end of our sessions, the emotions and hysteria just really wasn't there anymore, which is just amazing.
It's a testament to you though, like having the courage to trust yourself to make an investment like that, both financially and with your time and with your emotions, because it was heavy and it was deep. And then every week you were like, okay, you're processing it. We were talking through it. You were integrating it. And I was like, you have to take this action step this week, or then next week we can move forward with the next thing. And you were just making brave moves, and you moved really rapidly, like really cleanly through each one, so that the next sessions could be very productive.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a really big piece, because sometimes when people do HypnoBreathwork, they don't take their action step right away. They let their logical mind kind of kick in, or they procrastinate on it. And then they just don't get the gains that they could have if they really committed to it and they consistently did the work. So I was constantly like in awe with you. And every week I was like, wow, we're moving through this really beautifully, like powerfully, like big things are shifting and fast because you're really taking ownership of it. So I thought that was really beautiful. And then I think everybody needs to know that if you want to do big things, you have to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
That's how it's done. And I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of look at, us or other people who have had some success in their fields, and they think, they're really lucky. And it's like, no, we actually do extremely deep work on ourselves. Yeah. And we have the courage to invest in things when we're not ready. If we know that we need more information, or we need deeper healing, or we need to get trained in something, or we just need to like work on our mindset. And so that post, obviously it was intuitive. It came through in my breathwork session to create it. And I just basically said, like the first year I think I was 4 months into breathwork coaching, and I hired a business coach.
Wow.
I'm like, I know where I'm going. Like, I truly believe in this work, and I believe in myself to execute. And I think that's one of the biggest things is I execute every action step that comes immediately. So I've developed a very strong sense of trust and confidence within myself. So if it comes through my breath, you're going to get a business coach. And if for a couple months I haven't made more money and I can't figure it out on my own, well, then I hired a wealth coach. And then when I needed to increase my visibility, but I didn't know where to go, I did breath work on it. I asked for connections. I had a whole spiritual process of asking for signs, and met my publicist and invested in her. And that was one of the investments where I was attached to an outcome of, I'm going to get this PR, I'm going to get into these, press placements. And that didn't happen. However, she introduced me to her community. I think I made like $50,000 in sales from her people coming into my work. And then she became an investor in Mastery. So the intuitive investments aren't necessarily linear.
Yes.
You're likely to gain skills and knowledge from whoever you invest in, but you can't be attached to that. You have to be open to the growth lessons. And sometimes it's just stretching your ability to spend, to believe in yourself, to become. So that is a huge part of my ability to have grown in this space, has been investing.
Oh, it's so cool. Okay, I want to stay on that for a moment. What do you feel like has been your stretchiest investment ever? And what even feels, and obviously you don't need to go into the details, but what do you feel like was an investment that you made where you're like, I didn't really get what I wanted, but I learned a lesson? And maybe that's even in business too.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the investments that come to mind is I went to a private Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat. It was like a $16,000 investment for, 4 days or something like that. And I don't know what I was going to get out of it. I didn't know if I was going to manifest my next level. I did see an apartment, and I ended up moving into a different apartment, and that was really expansive for me. But what I thought I was going to get, which was a deeper level of healing or manifestation, wasn't actually what I got. I learned from him in terms of facilitating, hosting experiences, watching how he ran things, watching the community, seeing what patterns were coming up for them. I was learning more as a facilitator than as a student. Wow. So that was kind of cool,
That's cool.
And then when I launched my book last year, I made a $30,000 investment into PR. And in those calls, they were like, oh, we're going to get you on this podcast and this show. And it was like Good Morning America and Jay Shetty and Ed Milet. And I was like, okay, this sounds great. None of that happened. Not even close to any of those things happened. It was a 4-month package, 2 months in, not one thing had happened. I ended up having to really hustle then and pick it up and grind and ask my friends to go on their shows and then get a little bit of traction for that. But nothing happened in terms of what I felt would be worth a $30,000 investment. And it still hasn't happened.
Yep.
And I just have to be okay with that, be okay learning about the PR process, okay trusting myself, okay with maybe those connections will come to fruition later. If it's intuitive, it was meant to be for some reason, and just being able to accept that and come to peace with it, I think is powerful. And I made another investment where it was like $20,000 into a writing coach, $25,000 into a speaking coach and a reel, which didn't really have a lot of traction, but I learned things from those people, and I learned things about myself, where this speaking coach actually said to me, if you keep going on this path that you're on, you're going to develop ALS, an autoimmune disease, or cancer, because you are grinding, you are hustling, you are on autopilot, and your body is going to catch up. And if that's what I got for $25,000 instead of being connected to speaking bureaus and be on stages, you might have saved my life.
Literally.
And it came through that person. So I take that as a win.
Absolutely. I feel like also one of the most magnificent things, and I want to go back to that self-trust piece, when I saw all the investments you had made, and I was like, holy shit, like some of them made me nervous. Like I was just like, because it really kicks up like, oh, I would need, it's like that part of me that's like, oh, well, I would need this to happen for me to spend this. It's like that really, and I always hear it as like my ego, because it's like that scared part of me. But I love what you're saying, because essentially it's like you are trusting yourself and trusting that like the universe, God, life, whatever, has you in whatever move you make. I want to switch gears a little bit to like you as an entrepreneur, because that's like another thing about you that I really admire and I'm so fascinated by. And I had one of my best friends, Allie, on the show, and she's also another entrepreneur that I really admire. When you were getting Mastery started, what was that like? Like getting investors, did you bootstrap it first? Did you know you wanted to do investment? Like what was that process like for you?
So it was a spiritually led kind of process. You know, when I had that initial retreat in Bali, I had actually on the 4th day after I had done some healing, birthed an entire company. So I had seen like the concept and the UX and the designs and people I went to work with and logos.
And UX is user design, right?
User experience.
Oh, user experience. Okay.
So I was kind of I had seen and had glimpses and had visions of that. When I came out of Bali, I actually went straight back into my like type A high achiever, put together a pitch deck, started pitching people 24 hours looking for developers. And I went really fast, really hard. And I kept getting blocked. Nothing was flowing. And it was like the universe wanted me to go on this journey of really learning breathwork first.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
It was really interesting. And I never saw myself as a breathwork coach.
How did you just surrender to that just really quickly? Like, how did you, instead of seeing that as like I think I hear that a lot with my women where they just get really discouraged. And it's just like, well, the universe saying no. But it's just like, how did you surrender to that and like continue on?
It was really messy in the beginning. It was really messy because I didn't understand the power of intuition yet. So I kept trying to override my intuition with my logical brain. And I was applying back to advertising and marketing jobs because I was like, this makes no sense, but this doesn't have traction, but I need to go. And my intuition and my meditations and my breathwork would be like, nope, book a flight to India. I'd be like, how am I going to afford a flight to India? You know, and then it was like, I would get $1,000 voucher and then I would go to India. Like all of these really interesting little things were happening in that first year of my journey. And then I became a breathwork coach where my ego truly had to die. You know, I was like, I had account director titles. I had worked so hard to have this status and significance in an industry of marketing and advertising in New York City. And then to go be a breathwork coach and ask yoga studios if I could teach there. It really made me have to be humble, you know, but that's who I had to become. That's what I had to develop. And just a sidebar, that's what's so interesting about being back in Santa Monica today is because I went to yoga this morning at the studio where my credit card declined and I was $20,000 in debt from following my intuition 6 years ago. And that's the thing about intuition. It's not linear. And even now with some of the financial decisions I have to make, I'm like, oh, this is teaching me that I need to respect money more, that I've been spending too freely, that I need to look at where the validation's coming from or the dopamine hits. Anyways.
My favorite conversation. We will talk about that.
Yeah. But But after I'd been coaching breathwork, I really approached it like I did, my old career, with a lot of professionalism, and I did a lot of research, and I was tracking patterns, and I was comparing modalities, and I had thousands of line items in Google Sheets. Thousands, because once COVID hit, I took my practice online, and I would ask people, how are you feeling? What's coming up for you? What colors are you seeing? Where are you feeling physical sensations? What's your action steps? And then I would manually write all of those things in the chat box into Excel, and I would track people's patterns. And I became very aware of women having a lot of self-doubt, men fearing uncertainty, when anxiety was coming up for people, what money beliefs they had, what was blocking them from love and relationships. And I just tracked all of this data. And then after about a year or two of coaching and forming my modality and having my own digital course and my own just products, I was like, what's next? And that's when it was actually my spiritual advisor, Julie Barros. She was like, it's going to come, the universe is going to show you what's next. And someone who I had met after Bali, or reconnected with, because I knew him in college, was like, let's bring your app idea to life. The one that you talked to me about when you first got back from that trip. I remember your deck. It's time. This was like a year and a half later. And I was like, whoa, it's time. And so we actually partnered up to start. Mm-hmm. And he had a lot of connections in terms of having built big companies in the past, where he was connecting me to agencies. And we were going to really do like a 50-50 partnership on it. And we started raising capital. And it was like a 50-50 thing. Like, I raised $500,000, he raised $500,000. And we went into production, and I leveraged now the coaches that I had now certified. Mm-hmm. They created sessions for the app, and it was a really beautiful process to begin with. And there was a lot of unconventional, intuitive things I was doing, which is not the world that he was from. And I was like, I think we have to spend $100,000 on this launch party, which is insane. That's an insane decision to make. But I knew I wanted to go out into the world very legit. Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted to be positioned as very premium. And I saw a vision for mastery being just like an Apple, a Nike, a Google. And so I was like, no, this is how we need to present ourselves. And it has to be very polished and premium, and the aesthetic and the brand look and feel and tone and positioning, everything has to be elite. And, it was like that every step of the way. Whatever agencies we worked with, I did breathwork on it. They came through, they had to be in alignment. And the reality is, it's been a tough journey. The first year was flowing more, and then we were no longer really in alignment. He had a really massive opportunity for another company that he was working on that was taking all of his energy, and it's completely blown up. And I'm so happy for him, and it makes more sense in that way. And these were all learnings that I had to go through. I remember doing a lot of breath work on sort of the separation of he and I, because my ego would want to react in a certain way and feel a little bit of maybe betrayal from that partnership. And every morning I would do breath work, and I would respond differently. Wow. And I know that has saved me tremendous amount of equity, because I handled it with grace from getting out of my conditioning. Wow. Instead of how my old New Yorker reactive self would have handled it. And we're on good terms now. And the universe is taking me on an interesting path now in the last few years. We developed the app, which I use every morning, and I'm still obsessed with. And we've gone into doing corporate sessions and events and Mastery Sports and Mastery Kids. And there's all these sort of compartments for it. And this year it was like, we're really going to focus on a podcast. And I was like, am I pivoting again? Or am I just creating awareness in a different way? Mm-hmm. So it's a very unconventional way to do business, because we're used to having strategy, doing things in a traditional way. Investor pressure puts a lot of kind of anxious energy over the top of it. And you just have to ground yourself every single morning and connect to a bigger vision, connect to your purpose, to your values, to your mission, and keep taking intuitive action and grow your business.
If you're a woman who makes money or wants to make more of it, but still feels overwhelmed, disconnected, or unsure how to actually lead your finances, I created Magical Women in Money just for you. MWMM is where money meets self-trust, strategy meets intuition, and women stop outsourcing their financial power. Inside, I teach you how to organize your finances, understand your faulty money habits, align your earning with your astrology, and build real wealth for your future without shame, pressure, or feeling like you're behind. This is a personal finance meets astrology method that works. It's grounded, empowering money work for women that feels approachable and soulful. Join the waitlist for Magical Women in Money membership, MWMM. The link is in the show notes. Wow, I'm blown away. One thing I do want to speak into, just backing up a little bit, the app is so gorgeous and it's simple. Like, I think I'm not like diagnosed or anything, but I think I have a bit of neurodivergence going on, or ADHD. I don't know if there's the same thing. Like, just like, I definitely can get overwhelmed really easily. And it's so fascinating. When I was first introduced to your app through Lindsay, I literally was like, I love how you don't take this to the bank of like a doctor prescription, but it's like, there's like a prescription. It's like, do you want to work on, how are you feeling today? First and foremost, where's your energy at? Scale of like 1 to 10 or whatnot. Is it 0 to 10 or 1 to 10?
0 to 10.
0 to 10. So you put that in, and then it's like, how do you want to feel when you're done? And then what area of life do you want to focus on? Like, I think that way as a woman, as a person, as a mentor, as someone who markets and does like messaging. So, and also it's beautiful, it's simple. And I love, and maybe it's the high achiever energy too, because I just love this idea of like, okay, I want to work on my money today and I want to feel this way. So it's like, okay, why don't you focus on the joy, like the joy breath work? And I love how you have the minis too. So it's like, you don't have to be so maybe involved. Sometimes my Aries, like 22 minutes feels like a lifetime. Yeah. But I just want to reflect that back to you, like just the way it's been developed. And I know that I wonder if in moments it can also feel like a labor of love, because it's a lot to build something and really have like to know the stratospheric potential and just be in the process with it. So what is that like for you, like on a day-to-day?
I think that's one of the best questions I've ever been asked, because I think that more people need to know what that in-between looks like and feels like. And mastery is something that I believe in so much. I believe in this big vision of people being able to have more ownership, have more awareness, take it into their own hands, just use their breath 20 minutes every morning. Like, I think that that's so freeing and liberating to know that that's in your power and that's in your control to make better decisions and ultimately be a better human. And so I think when you look at the data and the numbers and the other side of business and things aren't growing, or you feel misunderstood, or you feel like you're not getting the traction, you can go a long time with, resilience and belief and perseverance. But the reality is, I think after 2 or 3 years of feeling like it's not growing and it's not being seen, I don't feel seen, my baby's not seen, then the doubt will hit eventually, and it's like, am I doing the right thing? Am I supposed to stop? Is this supposed to be something else? And so I think that's when I really lean on the app the most, because I need to get out of my doubt. I need to get out of the trajectory that I'm attached to. I need to get out of what success looks like to an investor, because I still have to provide those updates every quarter. And you have to just solidify your self-trust, solidify your belief in the world. Be open to it going in an unpredictable way. Be open to having to learn and grow and develop and become in other areas, and then it'll sync. The timing will sync, or something needs to change. Or maybe it's me not being able to hold the success that it could have because I could sabotage it. And so I have to be more grounded and more rooted and more centered before those things can kind of click and take off. And I've seen it even this year. It's interesting. We talked about grief in the very beginning. I'm going through my own grief experience with my dad's health right now. And it is so painful and it is so brutal when you're really touching that pain. And as I'm doing everything that I teach and sitting with it and being in the discomfort and allowing myself to slow down and just feel heartbroken, the interesting thing is it's breaking me open to a different level and a different layer, and it's making me more human. And I feel like a part of the app stagnation has been my inability to understand other people or to truly empathize with why it's difficult for them to choose themselves every morning, why it's difficult for them to prioritize 20 minutes of self-care and then have the courage to take the action. And so when I'm in those moments with my dad, I feel so human and I feel like I understand people better. And I think that that's probably going to make a better leader for when things do take off.
Oh, I feel like that makes me a little emotional because I just feel I have this interesting, I don't know if it would be like an audige, but I was going to my sauna studio before I was leaving Orange County to move up here. And usually there's rose bushes everywhere. And the last night I ever went to the sauna studio before I was moving, it was like, I don't know, maybe end of January. And I noticed that all the rose bushes were pruned down to the nubs. So you're walking into this beautiful plaza and it looks like destruction. Like you're literally like, what is going on? So I literally got on like ChatGPT and I was like, give me the spiritual reason for why the pruning process happens with roses and how I can relate that to like spiritual growth. And it was literally saying how for the rose bush, it's just the way that it works. Like you prune it down to the nubs, and then that is actually what makes it grow back strong and resilient and beautiful. And so it's like the natural forces, like that's what happens with us too. Cause I look back on my last, year and a half of just like, and it didn't even just begin with my dad's sickness and his passing. Like it was also IVF not working and I had mold exposure. It was just like a lot of pressure and loss. But now it's interesting being on the other side of the process for now, because there will be more. Right. And it's like to be with the woman and the maturity and like the resilience and the magic of who I am as a woman now and the deeper acceptance. So I think I say that just reflecting that back, because it's like every process is giving us that. It's like, it's almost like God, universe's way of like guiding us and just always reminding us that there is a reason for every season. Like it's always to help us become powerful on some level. So, and get us ready for the next level.
It's definitely getting us ready for the upgrade, right? It's like life is sculpting us.
Yeah.
And if you can look at every challenge as this opportunity to dig deeper into yourself, to clear out anything that's not serving you, that's holding you back, then it's going to create this more powerful version of you that can hold all the success that you want. And I feel like what better lesson for me than to force me to go into this situation where I don't have the numbers and the revenue and the metrics to impress these investors. And I have to deal with and sit with what that brings up for me, which is all of my wounds of being an achiever and getting all of my worth through what I've accomplished. And when I don't have that right now, even though I have this inner knowing and this inner belief of where I'm going, it forces me to become more human. It forces me to be more resilient. It forces me to really believe in myself when the people who have put capital into my business are starting to doubt me. Like that's where the real work is. If everything was flowing, it wouldn't force me to develop and be better.
A million. And that's a million, just a million. Sending $1 million to you, 1 million users, $1 million.
Yes.
So I have a question that I'm liking to end with this round of my interviews. What is a message from Francesca's future self for you right now?
Oh, it's to enjoy the process and to maintain your ambition, but do it from a place of peace.
I love that. Incredible.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm just feeling really inspired by that figure skater. I don't know.
Oh yeah. What's her name?
It's Alyssa.
With the cool hair.
Yeah.
Such a vibe. I think she's a Leo.
She's unbelievable to me, the way that she is competing at the Olympics, winning a gold medal. And she was asked, do you feel any pressure? And she said, why would I feel pressure? I'm just expressing myself. And to me, I think she's like 20 years old. I'm 20, like, girl, you are an expander.
Yes.
And I've been thinking about that every day because I'm like, how do I build this and just enjoy it? Yes. Have fun with the process.
Yes.
Know that the success will come, but I'm just having so much fun. I get to sit here and have conversations with beautiful people like you. Like, that's my day. Like, that's pretty dope.
I was totally thinking that, like, while we were in this interview, I was like, wow, this is my life.
Yes.
I'm so glad I never gave up, because I've had moments, as we all do, on the path where you're like, I actually last summer, when I was just having a tough moment and a slow moment in the business too, I literally was like, I found this quote and it said, "You're not doing it wrong. You're just at the part that makes most people want to give up." And that was my phone wallpaper for a while, because it's like, I do think that that's true. Like, and I think a lot of women in my community can resonate with that, because I think sometimes when things are slow, or they're not working the way we want them to, or it doesn't feel like we're getting the numbers in whatever context, we literally can go to ourselves and be like, I'm doing it wrong. Is this a sign I should stop? And it's like, no, you're likely just at the spot where most people stop.
Yeah, I also like, it's not punishment, it's preparation.
Yes.
And
I love that.
I was telling you before we started, it's like, I went to that yoga studio where I moved to LA after that year of traveling and started my breathwork coaching business here. And I had such a pure intention, and I just wanted to be of service, and I was truly living my purpose. And I got a couple opportunities to work at, Remedy Place in West Hollywood and Malibu Soho House, and people are coming to me after class, they're like, "You changed my life, like, you're an angel." And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fulfilling. And then I go to Sweat Yoga and my credit card declines, and I'm 20K in debt, and I'm like, I'm listening to my intuition. I've had the courage to leave my safe job, my multi-6-figure salary. I'm doing the work. How is the universe not rewarding me for doing this? Am I supposed to give up? Am I supposed to stop? And I would just breathe and meditate, and it would just tell me, keep going another day. Send out that post, send that email, reach out to this potential client. And I just kept going. And I think everyone just needs to listen to their intuition, act on it, and keep going.
Keep going. That's the perfect place to land. I am so grateful. You have, as I mentioned, just had such a profound effect on me. I think of you often, and I'm so grateful, not only for the time that I got to work with you, but thank you for, traveling up here to be with me and share your power and wisdom with my community. And I'm just so honored. So thank you for this, babe. And it was so good to see you.
For you, anytime. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.